in good governance. Our government is committed to keeping an ear to the ground and a finger on the pulse and responding while balancing our national building efforts. The following measures will detail just how our government will, under the guidance of PM Modi, has taken steps to understand and address. I repeat that sentence, sir. The following measures will detail just how our government, under the guidance of PM Modi, has taken steps to understand and address the needs voiced by our citizens. My tax proposals are guided by this spirit. The objectives of my proposals are as follows. Personal income tax reforms with special focus on middle class. Rationalization of TDS and TCS for easing difficulties. Encouraging voluntary compliance. Reducing compliance burden. Ease of doing business, employment and investment. I will come to my proposal on personal income tax towards the end. TDS and TCS, rationalization for easing difficulties. I propose to rationalize tax deduction at source, TDS, by reducing the number of rates and thresholds above which TDS is deducted. Further, threshold amounts for tax deduction will be increased for better clarity and uniformity. The limit for tax deduction on interest for senior citizens is being doubled from the present 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees. Similarly, the annual limit of 2.40 lakh rupees for TDS on rent is being increased to 6 lakh rupees. This will reduce the number of transactions liable to TDS, thus benefiting small taxpayers receiving small payments. The threshold to collect tax at source, the TCS, on remittances under RBI's liberalized remittance scheme, the LRS, is proposed to be increased from 7 lakh to 10 lakhs. I also propose to remove TCS on remittances for education purposes, where such remittances is out of a loan taken from a specified financial institution. Both TDS and TCS are being applied on any transaction related to sale of goods. To prevent such compliance difficulties, I propose to omit the TCS. I also propose that the provisions of the higher TDS deduction will now apply only in non-PAN cases. In July 2024, the delay for payment of TDS up to the due date of filing statement was decriminalized. I propose to provide the same relaxation to TCS provisions as well. The government under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi believes in Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas. In line with this, we brought in updated return facility in 2022 for voluntary compliance by taxpayers who had omitted to report their correct income. Our trust in taxpayers was proved right. Nearly 90 lakh taxpayers voluntarily updated their incomes by paying additional tax. Taking this trust further, I now propose to extend the time limit to file updated returns for any assessment year from the current limit of 2 years to 4 years. I propose to reduce the compliance burden for small charitable trusts and institutions by increasing their period of registration from 5 years to 10 years. It is also proposed that disproportionate consequences do not arise for minor defaults, such as incomplete applications filed by charitable entities. Presently, taxpayers can claim the annual value of self-occupied properties as nil only on the fulfillment of certain conditions. Considering the difficulties faced by taxpayers, it is proposed to allow the benefit of 2 such self-occupied properties without any condition. To streamline the process of transfer pricing and to provide an alternative to yearly examination, I propose to introduce a scheme for determining arm's length price of international transaction for a block period of 3 years. This will be in line with global best practices. With a view to reduce litigation and provide certainty in international taxation, the scope of safe harbor rules is being expanded. A number of senior and very senior citizens have very old national savings schemes accounts. As interest is no longer payable on such accounts, I propose to exempt withdrawals made from NSS by individuals on or after 29th August 2024. I am also proposing to allow similar treatment to NPS Vatsalya accounts as is available to normal NPS accounts subject to overall limits. In my speech in July 2024, I had promised that all processes, including giving effect to appellate orders, shall be digitalized and made paperless over the next 2 years. So I'm happy to announce that digitalization is being made operational now. In July 2024, we brought in the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme to resolve income tax disputes pending in appeal. The scheme has received a great response, with nearly 33,000 taxpayers having availed of the scheme to settle their disputes. I have a few proposals to promote investment and employment. It is proposed to provide a presumptive taxation regime for non-residents who provide services to a resident company that is establishing or operating an electronics manufacturing facility. I further propose to introduce a safe harbor for tax certainty for non-residents who store components for supply to specified electronics manufacturing units. Presently, the tonnage tax scheme is available only to sea-going ships. The benefits of existing tonnage tax scheme are proposed to be extended to inland vessels registered under the Indian Vessels Act 2021 to promote inland water transport in the country. Extension for incorporation of startups. We continue to support the Indian startup ecosystem. I propose to extend the period of incorporation by 5 years to allow the benefit available to startups which are incorporated before 1/4/2030. In order to attract and promote additional activities in the IFSC, I am inter alia proposing specific benefits to ship leasing units, insurance offices, and treasury centers of global companies which are set up in IFSC. Further, to claim benefits, the cutoff date for commencement in IFSC has also been extended by 5 years to 31/3/2030. Category 1 and Category 2 AIFs are undertaking investments in infrastructure and other such sectors. I propose to provide certainty of taxation to these entities on the gains from securities, to promote funding from sovereign wealth funds and pension funds to the infrastructure sector. I propose to extend the date of making an investment by 5 more years up to 31st March 2030. Personal income tax reforms with special focus on middle class. Democracy, demography, and demand are the key support pillars in our journey towards Vikasit Bharat. The middle class provides strength for India's growth. This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil tax slab was raised to 2.5 lakhs of rupees, which was further raised to 5 lakh rupees in 2019 and to 7 lakh rupees in 2023. This is reflective of our government's trust on the middle-class taxpayers. I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees. So, average income of 1 lakh per month other than the special rate income such as capital gains under the new regime. This limit will be 12.75 lakh for salaried taxpayers due to the standard deduction of 75,000. Slabs and rates are being changed across the board to benefit all taxpayers. The new structure will substantially reduce the taxes of the middle class and leave more money in their hands, boosting household consumption, savings, and investment. In the new tax regime, I propose to revise tax rate structures as follows: 0 to 4 lakh rupees nil, 4.8 lakh rupees to 4 to 8 lakh rupees 5%, 8 to 12 lakh rupees 10%, 12 to 16 lakh rupees 15%, 16 to 20 lakh rupees 20%, 20 to 24 lakh rupees 25%, and above 24 lakh rupees 30%. To taxpayers up to 12 lakh of normal income other than special rate income such as capital gains. I read that again. To taxpayers up to 12 lakh of income other than special rate income such as capital gains, tax rebate is being provided in addition to the benefit due to slab rate reduction in such a manner that there is no tax payable by them. The total tax benefit of slab rate changes and rebate at different income levels can be illustrated with a few examples. A taxpayer in the new regime with an income of 12 lakh rupees will get a benefit of 80,000 rupees in tax, which is 100% of tax payable as per the existing rates. A person having income of 18 lakh rupees will get a benefit of 70,000 rupees in tax, that is 30% of tax payable as per existing rates. A person with an income of 25 lakh gets a benefit of 1,10,000 rupees, that is 25% of his tax payable as per existing rates. Details of my tax proposals are given in the annexure. As a result of these proposals, Honourable Speaker, sir, revenue of about 1 lakh crore in direct taxes and 2,600 crores in indirect taxes will be foregone. Mr. Speaker, sir, with this, I commend the budget to this august House.
Item number 2, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, 2003. Medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement and macroeconomic framework statement.
Item number 3, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2025.
प्रश्न ये है कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है। माननीय मंत्री जी अब विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करें।
Sir, I introduce the bill.
थैंक यू। सभा की कार्रवाई सोमवार दिनांक 3 फरवरी 2025 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
A big announcement by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, saving the best for the last. No income tax up to 12 lakh rupees per annum. It was 7 lakh rupees earlier. She's increased that straight away by 5 lakh rupees. So the big headline coming out of the Union Budget 2025, you don't have to pay income tax up to 12 lakh rupees per annum. It's a huge deal, particularly for people who are in the middle class, lower middle class. And of course, the details of the new tax slabs and rates will be out in the new income tax bill, which will be presented in Parliament next week. But the big headline that's come out from the budget speech lasting about an hour and 18 minutes, is that up to 12 lakhs income per annum, there is zero tax. Rahul Shivshankar joining me here in the studios. Rahul, big announcement this. People were talking about tax cuts. Here it is. It's a big bonanza for the middle class.
Absolutely, Zach. I think that's the conversation we were also having in the studio yesterday. And I think that we should take a little bit of credit for interpreting what the Prime Minister said yesterday and actually building it up as a national news story. But this was widely anticipated after a large number of signs that were already sort of flagged by both the FM in earlier iterations a few weeks ago, and of course through source-based information that was emerging from the Finance Ministry. Why am I not surprised? Well, look, I don't want to be pessimistic, but the point is that fundamentally you need to boost consumption in the economy. It has to happen, and there has to be a little bit of money put in the pockets of the beleaguered middle class. Of course, our experts will tell you how this breaks down, but number one, that's the first point. Number two, of course, there are also the spectre of a couple of elections. Bihar was mentioned a few times in this budget. Delhi election is sort of, looming somewhere in the background. In excuse me, in 7-8 days, we're going to have polling here. So all of this will feed in. I'm not saying that this is directly responsible for this particular exemption and this tax sort of sop that has come the middle class way, but I think there was a need to indulge, as I said, for macroeconomic reasons. So this is really
so we will break it down tax slab by tax slab for our viewers, but what the Finance Minister said is that for someone who is earning 12 lakh rupees compared to what the slab was, the starting slab at 7 lakh rupees last year, the gain in net taxation would be 80,000 rupees is what she said. So the big headline, I want to reiterate again for our viewers, middle class viewers who are watching this broadcast in India and around the world, if you are earning income of up to 12 lakh rupees, there is zero tax to be paid. The rest of the slabs and the rates, we will know in some time once the budget document is out. We have our guests here in the studio. Nalin, what do you make of that? This was something that the government had to do to put more money in the hands of the people?
Well, it's a good move, and I think just initial reaction, people are very happy with it. I can tell you something how the markets are reacting. The markets are flat. The markets halfway through the speech dropped. They were up till half point. They dropped immediately after that. They are flat at the moment, and only the Nifty mid cap is now in the green. Everything else is in red. Part of that reason possibly is because of the reduction in capex. The capex revised estimate is much lower, with 10.8 lakh, whereas it was 15 point something lakh earlier. So that seems to be the case. If you look at the stocks which are driving the downfall, those are a mixed bag. Those are stretch across consumer companies to healthcare and others. So it's a bit unclear why the markets are down. But this kind of buoyancy we are seeing among people around us. With the
none of these guys invest in the stock markets. They're all middle class people, under 12 lakh people who now don't have to pay any tax. But Saket,
so can I just come in on the markets part?
Yeah, sure.
markets are down, but FMCG is up. It's 1.5% up. So I think this money in the hands of the people, there is an anticipation of consumer goods, FMCG goods being bought, and that sector is up. Rest of the sectors are down. Now, if the causality is government capital expenditure reduction, then I think it's unfair, because government has spent a lot over the last 3 to 4 years post-COVID, and now the benefits of that infrastructure or that capital expenditure should start coming in, and the private sector needs to start adding its weight out there. So if they are thinking that the markets are down and because of whatever this lack of capital expenditure, maybe it's a good time to buy.
No, so Saket, I want to focus on this no income tax, because for our viewers, that's the most important thing. No income tax up to 12 lakh rupees. What was it born out of, and do you think this will address the concern about flagging consumption?
I think it's a good, very strong, good step. So thank you, Mr. Sitharaman. But I mean, realistic, I think what it has done is some of the concerns about also the benefits only going to corporates, etc., are being assuaged here, because if the government is actually making more money from taxes on corporates, etc., and the buoyancy of GST, they've actually passed that on. So I think it's a great move, and it will definitely help consumption.
No, so she also said that the hit that the government will take because of this increase in the slab is about to the tune of 1 lakh crores, is what she said. Do you have a back of the envelope calculation for what this means, the increasing of the slab from 7 to 12, what this means for various income brackets? Or if you can give us first your thoughts on increasing from 7 to 12, and then we can go to the...
No, I think from 7 to 12 is a big jump, and I think the entire, it is putting money into the hands of the the individual here, which is much needed. Also, I think the entire rationalization of TCS and TDS will also help, especially in terms of dividends. There'll be a reduction there. So the fine print needs to be seen. But I think overall the aim has been targeted at middle class, particularly salaried middle class, which I think is a huge advantage, because usually that's the category.
Yeah, anyone up till monthly income of 1 lakh now.
Basically,
sort of
doesn't pay
so 12.75. So that's over and above your standard deduction also, mind you. So as she said, it was 12.75 that now if you're a salaried
to know
person,
how many people are actually affected directly by this move. So let's try to get those statistics. Yeah,
we'll try and get it. But I think
we may also see more people actually coming into the tax bracket because of this, because there are a lot of the smaller sort of people who are not getting much salary, but who would have been sort of staying outside some of the numbers that Gautam was talking about earlier. Some of them might slip
Also,
in.
the other thing is this is for the new tax regime, so this might incentivize more people moving into the new tax regime.
because
So
I think at these rates, the old regime no longer will be
makes
as
sense.
attractive.
Can I throw some numbers again?
Yeah.
Since 2018-19 budget, the personal income tax numbers have been rising as a total percentage of receipts from 16% to 19%. Corporation tax has reduced from 19% to 17%. Perhaps when we hit budget 26 and look at the receipts that have happened, there may be a reversal of these numbers, where the personal income tax as a percentage of receipts would slightly reduce, and maybe corporate tax.
So Rajiv
given
Desai,
the
your
GST will
first
rise.
comments on this is the big headline. Like I said, the reason why we are focusing on this is most important to our viewer, to the middle class. This increase of the basic exemption from 7 lakhs to 12 lakhs. What does it mean?
Well, everybody welcomes a buck in their pocket, that's for sure. So in that sense, it's a good thing. A little more back of the envelope calculations would
actually give us a better... You have a chart of what this might mean for people above 12, 15, 20.
80,000 at an annual level means 6,600 per month.
Yes.
So maybe it's incremental and not really transformative.
No, so that's at the lower end. That's at 12 lakhs. That's at 12 lakhs. If the higher you go, if you're for example above 20 lakhs.
At 18 lakh, the benefit is 70,000, and at 25 lakh it's 1.1.
Yeah.
So anything between 6,600 to say 9,200 would be the benefit,
about 10,000,
depending on which slab you're in.
Yeah.
No, but the big question is, Saket, will this flag, I mean, the issue of consumption flagging, will this address that? If you put 6,000 or...
It's big enough.
You don't think it's big enough, Saket Mishra?
I think it's one of the steps, and it will definitely improve things. I don't think it's the only thing that's required. There is eventually consumption also has to be on the basis of people's expectations of earning more. And I think that will come hopefully from some of the other things that they've done in terms of ease of doing business, etc. That will again release some more money into the market.
What are some of the other things that you find interesting in this budget from the issues that we talked in the lead up to the speech?
Well, I mean, I look at, let's say, some of the things around tax relief in terms of whether it's a customs duties or direct taxes. The emphasis on sort of self-evaluation and having the tax authorities actually look at things later. That has improved. I think there were a couple of places where some of the approvals around import duties are being reduced for things that are required in the economy. I think that's going to change things. The protection that we have offered to particular sectors where there was inversion of taxes, I think that's going to help. Overall, I find that while they may not be sort of glamorous headlines, what I liked was that there was an attempt to keep moving in the right direction on ease of doing business, which I think will show up.
So on the tax slabs, we now have the new slabs that the minister announced. So above 24 lakhs, it's 30%. Between 20 to 24 lakhs, it's 25%. Between 16 to 20 lakhs, it's 20%. And 12 to 16 lakh, it's 15%. So that's the rationalization. So I think in the earlier this thing, there were 6 or 7 slabs. Now you're bringing it down to 5. So from 7, it's come down to 5, which again is a good thing. The number of slabs need to reduce, the rates need to reduce. I think she's moving in that direction. But again, I come back to the big headline is from 7 lakhs to 12 lakhs, you don't have to pay income tax. But also the rationalization, above 24 lakhs, 30%, and that's it.
We're also forgetting a couple of other things, like the number of rates and thresholds above which TDS is deducted.
Correct.
That's what the TDS,
To be reduced. So that's important because, limit for tax deduction on interest for senior citizens to be doubled from 50,000 to 1 lakh, annual limit for TDS on rent to be increased from 2.40 lakh to rupees 6 lakhs. Those are significant. Threshold to collect tax at source on remittance under RBI's liberalized remittance scheme to be raised from 7 to 10 lakhs. So there's that. There's also, of course, a promise of the new tax bill that is going to be kicking in, which is important. Yes, exactly, and the point that you were just making. Also, of course, there are the individual slabs which have also been revised, and that augurs well. So there will be net some amount of money now that the middle class will be able to save and perhaps spend, hopefully spend, not save for a rainy day. But the thing is that while we chase the big headline, and we're going to come back to it because obviously it's the most direct connect with the public, what about deregulation? What about some of the other big steps, the reformist steps that were supposed to be taken? Of course, we can discuss that.
So the only one that they've done is for within your financial sector. They said FSDC will take on some amount of regulatory impact assessment for some of them. But apart from that, there's actually nothing else that's
so is that the reason why the stock markets...
Jan Vishwas 2.0 will be better?
Yeah.
It's not. She has said there will only 100 more provisions will get decriminalized. So again, I think they're just playing around.
So there's big support
it's a waste of time.
There's a big support to MSMEs. There's a fund for startups.
And urban.
Yes, and urban renewal.
challenge.
And there's new schemes for women, SC/ST, first-time entrepreneurs. And there's a national manufacturing mission which has been announced. But I think, when it came to deregulation, there was an announcement made.
I think a committee, they're setting up a committee to look at deregulation for non-financial
So how will the
sectors.
markets and how will reformists read that? As something that's been kicked down the road? Or, I don't know the immediacy, I don't know the time limits, I don't know, we don't have a horizon for whether those steps will be taken and when will they be taken.
I'm being told that the markets are rebounding. Is that correct?
Just checking.
As far as the consumer goes, I mean, Godrej is up 5%. Hindustan Lever is up 2%, ITC is up 3.5%.
So basically all the FMCG stocks are doing well, which means that the consumption...
That's where this new 4,000, 6,000 rupees...
Actually, the markets are a bit further down compared to 10 minutes ago. The Sensex is at 77,308, which is down by 0.25%. 10 minutes ago, when Gautam and I were checking, it was down by 0.18%.
Okay.
The Nifty 50 is down by 0.17%. Yeah. The Nifty Bank Index is also down. Nifty Mid Cap 100, which was actually in green 15 minutes ago, is also now in the red.
No, but what does it say to you that all of these major indices, broad indices are in the red, but FMCG stocks are up? What does that say?
That fundamentally is a reflection of the fact that that there's now likely to be more money in people's pockets in the middle class. So people are expecting that there'll be more consumption. I mean, fundamentally, it's coming.
I think to me that's a fascinating story in itself. The way the markets are reacting. Some stocks, like Gautam said, ITC, Unilever, etc., are up, whereas the
But
rest
the
of the
larger
markets.
thing is not moving.
Consumer
Largely, it
products.
seems, and it's too early. We still have to see the fine print and so on, and we still have to see the fine print in the personal tax one. But largely, capex is down, right? Or it looks like, at least the estimates for revised estimates fairly down. So, and there's no big bang reform.
Nothing.
There is no nothing moving the animal spirits of the economy. A lot of stuff for Bihar. Shoring up of Bihar.
That's the point.
Makhana
And
Commission.
Makhana, then your
Makhana,
Udan Airport.
Yes.
That
Udan
also,
airports
Udan
and
as well.
Bihar was mentioned about 3 or 4 times, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and that sort of is
It
political
was,
signaling.
it was spread across multiple things,
Yeah,
wide
yeah.
breadth of Bihar.
That's right.
Interestingly, very little of Andhra, but Andhra's got a lot of stuff just before the budget.
That's
so.
right. So
Also, Andhra doesn't have elections this year.
Yeah,
Bihar does.
exactly.
I think,
So there you
I
go.
think that makes a big difference.
There is this central KYC.
No mention
No
of
mention of
disinvestment at all.
disinvestment.
Okay.
There's a central KYC that she has announced,
Which-
and,
which
and,
has
and I
been
think
the-
that's going to be a one-time big problem by all of us who will have to do this KYC. But I hope after this, there will be no more further KYC.
But except
The
this
other-
has been
But there will be
in the
periodic-
pipeline for a while.
but
Periodic.
I believe there will be nominal.
Periodic updates.
So
but-
just to
so
throw it out
once-
there,
once-
how close are we to the EAC's vision and his recommendation? Quite far.
Quite
you
far.
say.
This insurance, they are planning to make it 100%
100%.
FDI.
Yeah.
I do not think this is a good idea.
No, but
Okay.
they say
And
it's
they're
with a
calling it-
caveat.
they're-
Exactly.
There is a
It's a
caveat.
good
Caveat.
They're
caveat.
calling it a reform, but reform doesn't mean FDI, and particularly in insurance, which has repeatedly, consistently shown itself to be more of an industry,
Pirate industry.
gouging kind of an industry under the eye of the regulator, which has become an
No, but
industry
there is a-
association.
there is a flip
so
side
I'm
of
not
it.
sure whether
Premiums
this,
being
allowing
invested
this,
in the country
there
is
is
a
an
good
caveat.
idea.
It's a good idea.
That
I don't
actually
think
goes
that's
into
gonna-
It's a
because they've
longer-term
said
debate,
that
but
it's 100% only if all the entire
Premiums
premium is
collected.
invested within the country.
Yeah.
but
I don't
I'm
think
just
so. I
saying
think
that
you look at it from the consumer point of view.
Yeah.
Insurance industry has not been
But
very.
look, I mean,
there is a
global
distraction,
trend, right?
and we're all sort of focusing on the distraction, very welcome distraction for a lot of people. So let's not, by any standard, sort of underplay it. It's a very important move to put, give somebody a little bit to cheer about in a usually larger growing dismal scenario, brutal scenario. But fundamentally, have we moved closer to that 1991 moment, so to speak, that so many people have been talking
Well,
about? I don't know.
well,
Not even in the same ballpark.
Not even in the same ballpark.
And whether this is enough for even a 7% growth rate, I'm not really
So I don't see
sure.
growth here.
I don't see growth either.
Yes, middle class and all
paisa mil gaya.
good luck to them, and may they be happy and all of that. But the growth is missing from this budget. I
You said
don't
growth,
see it
growth,
yet.
growth. You
Yeah.
said if this is not going to be a reform budget, it's not going to be a budget at
Well,
all.
all of you said tax cuts, and she's delivered the tax cuts. So that's one thing you've got to give credit to
And
the finance
something
minister
That
for.
credit is given. Now let's move forward, and
what
the
is
credit
next?
is there.
No, but can I also do a round the table on the stuff that's expected to become more expensive and the stuff that's expected
May I
to
give a
become
quick
cheaper? Yeah,
update,
quick.
Zaka? We've been talking about the stock market. In the last 5 minutes, it's falling further.
Further down.
It's now down by about 0.4%.
And you reckon it's largely the capex thing. Also, there was expectation about rationalization of STCG, LTCG, the STT.
So all of that.
Did you hear anything from in the budget on that?
I didn't
Okay,
hear
so
anything.
maybe
I
it's
could have
because of that
missed
as
it,
well.
but fundamentally, this is reflecting the fact that there is no big bang wow thing for investors.
There's no
for
wow
investors.
factor in the
Apart
budget.
from the more money in the middle class pockets.
No, so I was also curious to know about this whole incentives for electric vehicles. I think she's reducing the customs duty on lithium-ion batteries, and therefore that will give a fillip to electric vehicles. Is there anything else that you reckon might become cheaper because of some of the reduction in customs duty? I think some drugs, some 30-odd drugs.
So that was interesting. From a healthcare point of view, I think a lot of the drugs are moving to zero duty or low duty. Plus, I noticed the entire thing of opening cancer centers across various district hospitals, which I think is fantastic.
The other important point is the momentum in rural India. There's been a push to ensure that doesn't flag. Loans via Kisan credit card limits have been
The limits
increased.
have
So
gone
that's very important actually. Also credit card cover for MSMEs. So job creation to expand from 5 crores to 10 crores for startup MSMEs, credit cover expanded from 10 crores to 20 crores. So look, I mean, if you really look at it from a workman sort of point of view, there are some small incremental changes which will perhaps continue to emphasize the importance of creating jobs. Nalin is raising his hand,
I want to
and
make a
it's an
quick
ominous
point.
raise of the hand.
Sorry, I want to make a small update. You know, this 12 lakh thing is not a small thing because 80% of Indians earn below 12 lakh.
12 lakhs.
Right?
That's
so,
right. That's
so
the
in
number.
that sense, the wider political import of this is going to be much wider than.
No, we talk
than
about the Bihar
markets.
elections. The Delhi elections are 3 days away. And I think this will have an impact
Just think
on the
about
Delhi
the gig
elections.
economy. Think about so many people who were finding it difficult to
So
make
you have
ends
social
meet.
sector for the gig economy now.
Yes,
in the
you have
PM
security
That's a very small
guards.
amount.
You have security
That's-
guards. You have people who are employed as chauffeurs. you
Delivery
have,
boys.
Exactly. This is someone has lifted a huge rock off their chests, and I think fundamentally, if you're really looking at goodwill to accumulate towards the government, this is the headline that's going to bring in. I don't know how this will sort of go down with the big analysts, etc. But
It's a very conservative budget.
it's a conservative budget. Okay, fine. But if you look at
from a
messaging,
Tourism
political
has had
messaging.
a couple of positives here, including infra status to some of the tourist and restaurant buildings that will come up as part
Also
of your
homestays, I think there's
no
some
homestays are under
exemption
your
being-
mudra. That is already there, but it's also got infrastructure status, if I'm not mistaken, for some of your tourist infrastructure that will be built.
Also,
So
you
which
know,
means you're opening
after
up
all
of
these
more
cuts,
loans.
the fiscal deficit for last year is 4.8. For the proposed is 4.4. This is very big. And therefore, she's continuing on the fiscal glide
Yeah.
path.
But is that
towards
necessarily, I mean, just to play devil's advocate
just
here,
the macro.
is that a
just
good thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Because I actually think if you look at where the markets are, for instance, and I'm not necessarily invested in it.
you should be.
No, I don't have the money. But
He spent it all on an election.
so if you look at it, let's say if you're walking in a long walkway of reform, right? What we have got is we've got now a nice carpet which is more comfortable to walk on. What we needed was a travelator to push things along. And I think that's that travelator impetus that is required, even if it means going from to 5 on the deficit. I think is worth it because we need that to push the economy to those higher growth levels.
But if there is no growth, then it's good to have a low fiscal at least.
But it's
No, but you know,
otherwise you lose on
I
two
agree
points.
with Gautam's point. Had she not stuck to 4.8, the markets right now they're 200 down. They would have been 500 down. So I think to that extent, yes, I think it's important to stick to the fiscal glide path. But again, coming back to the whole thing about the big complaint against the Modi government over the last 2-3 budgets was what's in it for the middle class. Now the middle class can't
No,
complain.
I think that has been
That has been
firmly
taken care of.
established.
That's been
That has
established.
been established for the next 2 budgets. I think she can exhale.
There was-
but these other parts,
As
There
the
was
can we
also
all.
the interesting thing on your agri, and it was said kind of in the passing, where the Dhanna Dhanya Yojana, which is supposed to be a result of convergence of various agricultural schemes that exist. That's what she said, and it was said quietly in the passing when she announced. But that will be interesting to see whether this adds more or whether they are actually going to consolidate existing schemes and allocations and put it
I
here.
also have a question on the new income tax bill that's going to be brought in next week. So what may that mean for the old tax regime, the new tax regime? By the way, all these slabs that we've announced, the change of rates, the change of slabs are for the new tax regime. So again, the government is pushing people to the new tax regime, incentivizing them to move to the new tax regime. I just want to quickly go through some of the things that could get cheaper potentially. Cancer drugs, she did mention that in the budget speech. EV batteries, so that could lead to electric vehicles becoming cheaper. Mobile phones, again, that's something that a lot of our consumer base uses. Frozen fish paste, if anybody's interested in that. Leather products. Something that is expected to become costlier is flat screen TVs. So please don't move away from CNN News 18, but flat screen TVs are expected to be slightly more expensive. But I think, so when the new income tax bill is presented next week, are we then going to see an end or a timeline to an end to the old regime?
I think so.
I hope so.
I hope so, and I
Yeah.
think so.
But I don't know. Some people are addicted to
Yeah.
deductions.
Deductions.
But I think Nirmala made an interesting point. If you actually now look at from these new slabs and new rates, even if you have a housing loan, even if you claim ATC deductions, you might end up paying more tax in the old regime than in the new regime.
Oh, that's a calculation that needs to be done. I don't know if people will take the trouble. They'll just say,
But simple is always better, and even these slabs are one too many, I would say.
There are
We
five
need
slabs
to go
now.
back to
Five slabs. You
a
need to
3-slab
go down.
structure, make it simple, make it
No, but
clean.
slowly in time, because I think this is also a way to compensate for, I mean, to minimize the 1 lakh crore already that's being
revenue that's
foregone.
being
Yeah, so
foregone,
you need to adjust for that. So maybe rationalization will happen maybe in the next 2 years till people, and once maybe more people shift on to the new scheme, then you'll have scale and volume as well.
All right, Sunil Alag is also there. Sorry, Sunil, we couldn't come to you. I mean, this is why you should be here in the studio, you know. It's out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, as they say. But Sunil, your first thoughts on the budget.
So my first thoughts are on the budget is, look, 75% is supposed to relate to a year. 25% is supposed to relate to the strategy and everything else. Everything that she's announced is 5 years from today, 5 years from next 5 years, we're going to spend. It's the current budget is very, very important. What she has done, the plus points are, of course, what you'll have all discussed is the tax which has gone. But then she's added that, look, this does not include, various taxes on your, what does it say? That it says that 12 lakhs to 7 lakhs. When your fine print comes out, you are not including what you made on certain items like gains. Like she just said, like gains. So we have to wait and see how much of that 12 lakhs you can keep to yourself. But it will help consumption. It will help inflation, which is there. And therefore, what is one point which you all have missed out on tourism? Tourism is very, very important for me because she's laid out a plan for 5 years. But look, for 1 year itself, you cannot lose focus. Don't go into 50 areas where India is large enough. Go into only 5 areas, which you must do this year. And those will create jobs, those who will create impulses, because nobody's talked about tourism. I am talking about tourism itself. Next 5 years, look, the Prime Minister is hung up on the poor. There's no question on it. Because he's done enough for the agriculture, and somebody talked about growth. They've given 4 engines of growth, which she's concentrating on. Now that might be an area which we need to discuss further. And tourism is very, very important because it creates jobs, it gives income, and we've got 50 areas in India. I didn't know we had 50 areas. So what is the plus point is the income tax, what she's done. But all the surcharges, we have no idea till the fine print comes out. I've been watching Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. It's finally, 25 years ago that film came out. And BBC produced it. But it's still there because ultimately when you see the fine print, the bureaucrats will finally have their say. They will put in an extra comma where they will control, they will do anything. But 12 lakhs is the only point where they've increased.
I just want to add this. So what does this zero tax up to 12 lakhs actually mean for you? How much money do you get in your pocket? So we now have the budget document. So up to a person having an income with income up to 12 lakhs will get a benefit of 80,000. Person having an income of 16 lakhs will get a benefit of 50,000. Person having an income of 18 lakhs will get a benefit of 70,000. Person having an income of 20 lakhs will get a benefit of 90,000. Person having an income of 25 lakhs will get a benefit of 1 lakh 10, and anyone above 50 lakhs will also get 1 lakh 10. So this is what it boils down to. This is the brass tacks of how much money you will save with this, the minimum slab going from 7 lakhs to 12 lakhs.
Look, I mean, those are significant numbers.
Yeah.
Let's, as I said, if the government was hoping for goodwill to accrue to it, it is going to get a lot of goodwill, willy-nilly, from this particular move. Now, if you're looking at people who study the economy, from their point of view, this would be an underwhelming budget. So I'm looking at you, and I'm asking you, therefore, is that the reason why we are seeing this sort of flatlining, or maybe even, I don't know the exact position right now, of the Sensex? And what do you think we've missed out on, and is this the path to 7.6+%, 7.8+%
So we missed nothing.
Okay.
But we missed an opportunity to bring growth into the country.
Yeah.
Just as a small aside, the first part of part 2 was tariff, etc. Where I think she's already talking to Donald Trump. The presence of Donald Trump is already there.
How do you say that? Why so?
All these tariff lines being cut, reduction of customs duty. So before the negotiations on direct one-to-one begin, Already we are cleaning up whatever tariffs are there, maybe minimally. Just
Did you hear Harley Davidson
7
in the budget
lines have been
speech? I
removed.
didn't.
So that may be the final negotiation.
but it's mostly been on
overall, I
cancer
think
drugs and all.
this may help domestic industry also in some way, as it should. But overall, I think the budget has missed a big growth chance because you have 2 years to UP elections and then in 29. So these are the years, the first 2 years where the government can take risks. It can have fiscal imagination, it can have economic imagination and indulge and enable growth. In the last year, it won't be able to. So it's a little disappointing because I don't see much growth, and that's what the market is telling.
Nalan
There is no
Saket.
negative growth, by the way. So the markets are telling that it's flat.
It's flat.
So it's a yawn for them.
So we are seeing in the markets an uptick in FMCG stocks. That's been happening from the moment the income tax slabs were announced. See, what you are seeing is a political outreach to the middle classes. It's not just the increase of tax limit to 12 lakh. It's also the changes in rebate and the slabs. It's also changes for senior citizens and a whole bunch of things like on the rate for rent being raised. Basically, the idea is to put more money in people, make your money go longer in the at a time when increments may not be going up as much. We've just had a festival season where growth was tepid in consumption. So consumption, this is good for consumption. That's why you're seeing changes in FMCG stocks. However, I agree with Gautam, in the wider macro sense, I think the government has decided to be more careful and conservative and has decided not to go for big bang reforms. So this is almost like a holding budget. It's almost like a, just hold the line and, get these guys off our back, which is middle class, and give them something. But, you're sort of saving your powder.
Saket, they're saving their powder for what?
Exactly.
That's a good question.
I think, it's like holding a spot on a train, but if the train moves away, it doesn't really help us much. But I think the one point that Nalin also made, that outreach to the middle class, that 100,000 crores of urban challenge budget, which if you look at India, which is urbanizing at a fast rate, all these small cities coming up all over, if we can actually use that money to build up sewage systems, to build up municipal facilities, local education, politically it's a great move, but also just in terms of creation of a sustainable infrastructure, because the new cities otherwise are a shambles, right? There's no planning, nothing. That can improve a lot.
Urban challenge is coming. There's an urban challenge.
The money, yes. But
so she specified what she wants, and they will basically, seemingly put cities to bid for this money based on what they do, which has worked with the aspirational cities.
Correct. And also for tourism as well, right? Your top 50 tourism sites and what
I just want to add this. I'm getting this from our editors in our input desk. So, while the finance minister has said that there will be zero tax up till 12 lakh rupees, it was 7 lakhs earlier, it's now 12 lakhs, there are still rates that are being put. So, 8 to 12 lakh rupees, for example, is 10% tax. So, basically, the clarification is that zero tax up until 12 lakhs because you can claim rebate under 87A. Earlier, the rebate under 87A, the limit was 7 lakhs. Now that rebate under 87A, that has now been upped to 12 lakhs. Does this make sense to you? Can you explain this to our viewers in layman language? It doesn't mean you necessarily are not paying tax, but you can claim rebate to the equivalent of the tax that you're paying.
Because you have two brackets there, right? Like you have 4 to 8 is still at 5% and 8 to 12 is at 10%. So which means that, which is where it is. So there were two ways in which I was looking at. I'm not really a tax person. One is, this is for salaried and the rest of it is in terms of what is your non-salaried income, because you have other sources of income. So either whether this applies to the other sources of income, which is not salaried income, or whether under that it is just a question of how much you can take as rebate or what would eventually end up as exemptions or whatever it is. Like pretty much like your old regime then kind of bleeding into your new regime.
And also this is only applicable for the new regime. It is not applicable for the old regime. So again,
and also for the higher tax slabs, we've given enough congratulations for the middle class. I wonder if the surcharge, I don't see any note of the surcharges going away or a clean coming out there. So we just need to read the full budget.
I think cesses and surcharges, the only change is in the custom duties.
That's right.
Where not only one will be paid.
Exactly.
Either the surcharge.
Not on personal income.
Which is, I think, good.
I'm also told that we'll be joined by Vedika Kedia from Grant Thornton, who could explain this to us. What does this mean? So while the FM said that till 12 lakhs, it's zero tax, but if you look at the slabs, 0 to 4 is nil, 4 to 8 is 5%, 8 to 12 is 10%. What that means is whatever tax you're paying up till 12 lakhs, you can claim the exact same amount as a rebate. So net, you will pay zero tax to the government. So that's the clarification that's come in from.
It's only a technicality. I mean, the fact is, the headline is that up till 12 lakhs,
Correct.
you are exempted. Now, the mechanism is obviously one that is enabling you to remain on the books as a taxpayer, because that allows for accountability and assessment, and also, of course, back of the envelope calculations on just how many people are paying taxes in this country, etc., etc. But fundamentally, it is a bonanza, and it is something that middle class India is going to appreciate. And I can tell you that the mood might even be changing as quick as the next week, where there's going to be the first barometer really of whether there has been a connect on this on the ground. So I don't really anticipate that being a problem. I'm sort of more focusing right now, and of course we must get into this story because this is the one with direct connect to the public.
Viewers, yeah.
But I really want to know the long-term implications of this budget, whether it's actually moving us in a direction which will help us sort of take on these headwinds and push up above that 8%, because if we have to become Viksit, then that's the number.
I personally don't see it as a growth budget which is going to enable, the kind of growth that is required or to get us to an 8%.
Are we being dismissive of some of these big sort of announcements, which of course we have to remain...
Cumulatively, maybe over the next, again, there's going to be a lag period. Maybe you'll see an 8% growth after 3 years, but we need 8% from now. Right? I mean, there may be a lag there and
Nalin, what's the feedback that is now coming through the loop?
The feedback that's coming through the loop is that, I'll read out a joke to you which somebody sent, that, well, can we ask the finance minister to pay increments this year? So, that's just a joke, but the point is that it reflects a wider sentiment. I think the feedback that's coming is that India Inc., a lot of people are telling us off the record that, look, this is fine for the middle class, but this is not what we expected much more.
India Inc.
It's tepid.
Okay. Vedika Kedia is also now joining us. She's from Grant Thornton, India. Vedika, can you explain this to our viewers? So the finance minister in her budget speech said up till 12 lakhs income, there's zero tax, but the slabs still exist. 4 to 8 is 5%, 8 to 12 is 10%, and 12 to 16 is 15%. What does that mean? What does it necessarily translate to?
So basically, the finance minister wanted to give the benefit only for middle class individuals whose income is up to 12 lakhs. So they have introduced the benefit or the exemption in form of a rebate, and not exactly given a blanket exemption for everyone. So if your income is more than 12 lakhs, say if your income is 20 lakhs, then you'll have to follow the slab rates which they've given. And you will be required to pay a tax on your initial 12 lakh income also. It's not like 12 lakhs will be exempt and on other balance 8 lakhs you have to pay taxes only on that. Okay. It'll be like you'll have to pay taxes from, so it will be from 0 to 4 lakhs will be exempt as per the new slab rates that's been proposed. And from 4 to 8 lakhs, there'll be 5%. So that is how it will be calculated. But if your income restricts only till 12 lakhs, then you will get a rebate of 60,000. Which is being given by in form of a rebate and not as a blanket exemption to all the taxpayers.
So help me understand this like a layman. If you were explaining this to a 10-year-old, you will still end up paying 60,000 rupees as tax to the government if you're earning up to 12 lakhs, but you can claim that 60,000 back as a rebate. So net, you're paying zero tax. Is that what you're saying?
It's not that you can claim it back. You can, that it's not like a refund that you get from the
at the time of filing itself. Okay, got it.
You can claim it at the time of filing. It's a rebate. Okay. Basically, it's not a refund that you get.
So also, could you explain if this applies only to the new regime? Is the old regime continuing the way it is? Is there anything that we know about whether the government wants
this to? This is only to the new regime. This is only applicable to the new regime, not to the old regime.
What about phasing out and doing away with the old regime? We were told, I think, FY26 or FY27, the government will move out of the old regime. Now we're told by the minister that there will be a new income tax bill that will be introduced next week in Parliament. Do you think that will have some mention of when the old regime will end?
We're assuming that should have some mention. Currently, in the finance bill, there's no mention about that, about phasing out the old regime. But yeah, considering that all the changes on all the benefits are being given under the new regime, it is clear that the government really wants to phase out. So we are expecting that within the new income tax bill, there will be some mention about that.
So up until last year, and this is applicable for a lot of our colleagues as well, if you were, let's say, in the 15 lakh bracket or the 20 lakh bracket or the 25 lakh bracket, if you had a housing loan and if you had deductions in ATC, it made sense to still continue being on the old regime. But now with this, do you think that might change, that you would actually end up saving more in terms of the lesser taxes you pay to the government in the new regime and not in the old regime?
So I think that calculation is still to be done because we're still looking at the fine print and we're still analyzing what is the tax savings limit. If we actually, take out that ATC exemptions and those interest on housing loan, a part of benefits that were claimed. So because there has been a substantial revamp in the in the slab rates also under the new regime. So we'll have to just check the benefits or whether this will be more beneficial now to the taxpayer, even after the exemptions which were available under the new regime. So that I think that analysis has to be done.
Okay. All right. So we'll try and open our call lines as well. I'm sure our viewers will also have things to ask and questions as well as comments about the budget. From the point of view of our viewers, I think the most important thing is the tax rates for the new regime. I want to underline that again. Up till 12 lakhs net, you will be paying zero income tax because you can claim a rebate of up to 80,000 rupees under 87A, which means net till your 12 lakh income, you are paying zero tax to the government. Anything above that, it's there. The list is there as to, there you go, up to 8 lakhs. In the old tax, you save 30,000 rupees. The tax now is 20,000 rupees, so you have a saving of 10,000 rupees. So with each bracket, so anything less than 12 lakh rupees, you're paying zero tax. Old tax would have been 80,000. The tax now is 60,000, so which means you make a gain of 20,000 rupees. So you have those slabs. Also, because of reduction of customs duty in some items, electric vehicles expected to get cheaper, expected to get costlier, flat screen TVs, leather products are expected to get cheaper, cancer drugs are expected to get cheaper. This is the fine print. This is the devil in the detail that our viewers are interested in. But what about the big picture? And that's what our panelists here in the studio have been saying, that the big picture seems to have missed what was an opportunity. Can you explain, Saket, why you feel so?
Well, I mean, I think we had the chance to take an initiative before all these external headwinds come to us. But more than that, we are in a good place, right? The markets, equity markets are at a relative high. Our GST receipts have been quite robust. We are seeing at least a desire for industries to want to invest, provided there's demand, blah, blah, blah. So I think it was a chance where we could actually just push that into the next round. So I mean, that's the only thing that I'm really missing, that we have waited, maybe we waited like we did post-COVID, that we want to remain conservative and therefore we will not take any risk. But risk-free returns on a T-bill are zero, right? So,
I think we have some callers, so let's try and get some callers as well. Maybe they have a question or two for our experts. Mr. Ramesh Sundar Rao is calling us from Bhubaneswar. He's on the phone line. Good afternoon, Mr. Rao. Please go ahead and ask your question to our experts, please.
Yeah. This is phenomenal for middle class. This was it, and that is it. That is when beyond expectation.
Beyond expectations for the middle class. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. I think, Rahul, that speaks to the point that you were trying to make.
As I told you, I mean, this is going to be the standard response. And I'm sort of going through a lot of commentary on Twitter also, on the back of tweets that have been put out by PIB India, etc., announcing this or amplifying the announcement made by the finance minister. And there's a whole stack of goodwill that is flowing towards the government. In fact, let me give you some hard data, and this is interesting. I've just been able to sort of get my hands on this. This is how UPA and NDA sort of compare on their record on income tax exemption limits. So in 2005, it was 1 lakh. In 2012, 2 lakhs. In 2014, the needle was moved to about 2.5 lakhs as income tax exemption limit. In 2019, 5 lakhs. In 2023, 7 lakhs. And 2025, it's now 12 lakhs. So you can see that the common perception that Modi hasn't sort of done enough for the middle class is somewhere checked by this data.
The graphic on screen.
There you go. So that's what I'm saying. So if you really look at that, that shows that, look, he hasn't been quite as blindsided to middle class concerns as the narrative seems to sort of, suggest.
Mr. Rakesh Nangia is also here. Mr. Nangia, what do you make of this announcement that up to 12 lakhs income, there's zero income tax?
In any film, 7 lakhs, we never expected the government will increase from 7 to 12 at one go. I tell you why, there's a reason for that. How many people will go out of the tax net? If you see with the exemption that you claim for 7 lakhs, now you get it for 12 lakhs rupees. I can tell you more than 2 to 3 crores people will go out of the taxable. They may have to file a tax return, but there will be no revenue coming to the government because they'll get exemption 87A. So it's a blockbuster exemption, not expected, never be discussed in any quarters. We were all debating 7 to 9, 9 to 10. 10 was the upper limit actually, being a friendly budget like that. But 12 was not there. And I have a figure with me. There were 5 crore SSC who are filing a return till 5 lakhs. 5.25 crores SSC. They all go out of the net. See the drop in the number of taxable SSCs.
Okay.
And just to give you another analogy, if you go to the next level, there only 65% of the taxable SSC will go out of the net because of this exemption. You
really?
See, I've got a demographic actually. I have a demographic of
do the maths on that. If it's 5.2 crore SSCs, let's assume that most of them are single taxpayer homes. Just do the math on that. Look at the number of people that actually benefit. That goes up to about 15 to 20 crores.
People.
That's a huge number.
I have got an exact figure now with me. 5.25 crore returns were filed under 5 lakhs. They all go out of the net. See that? Then for 5 to 10 crore, 1.5 crores. And from 10 to 1 crore, there were 1 crore. So only 2.5 crore will survive. 2/3 of the people will go out of the net. Okay. So, the government always have been fighting in the past. We want more SSCs. We don't want to have 2% of the population. From 6.65, you have come down to 3 today.
Okay, we've got a couple of callers. Let's see
what
their questions are. Mr. Saurabh Jorhat is calling. Sorry, Mr. Saurabh is calling us from Jorhat. Yes, Mr. Saurabh, go ahead.
Okay, I want to know, is there any provision for the northeastern states in this current budget?
Is there any? Sorry, say that again. Is there any?
Is there any provision for the northeastern states?
For the northeast. Okay, all right. Thank you for your question. Prithvi is calling us from Guntur in Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Prithvi, go ahead.
Yeah, I have an opinion that this new tax regime is not a big relief, as government charging indirect tax much than before, like popcorn tax.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Again, this is a direct tax versus indirect tax thing that's been there. But of course, indirect tax is in the purview of the GST Council. But having said that, this whole thing about putting more money in the hands of the middle class, that was a big talking point ahead of the budget. You think the finance minister has delivered on that front? I think
done more than that than anybody expected. Anybody talked, any media talked, any quarter got. None of people talked about 12 lakhs rupees. And this is like a big, I normally got less this. Have anybody ever said in any forum, no one ever said it 12 lakhs.
All right. We also have Mr. Rajat Dhar in the studios, but I'll come to you in just 1 second. I have to go across to CII, where my colleague Kritsween is joined by Mr. Sunil Kant Bunjal of the Hero Group. Kritsween.
Oh yes, you've already given us the introduction, Zaka. But straight to Mr. Munjal. Mr. Munjal, what's been the big takeaway for you? Everybody's talking about the 12 lakh for the middle class, so it's certainly a big boost, but that kept aside.
So, if I look at this budget, and you can actually break it up into different components, and of course, as you said, the important announcement for individuals for across the country is the big tax break. But it's also interesting that she covered a very wide spectrum, all the way from agriculture to research, to innovation, to deep tech, to clean tech manufacturing, to export support, to MSMEs, to the fund of funds for startups. But if I look at it from industry point of view, there were 3 or 4 very important announcements which came in there. One, of course, is the financial support, the guarantee support for small industry. In addition to that, the increasing the pace of M&A, setting up empowered group to look at all non-financial rules and regulations in the country. We've been talking about this for 20 plus years now. I think this is a very, very welcome step. Somehow it's missed most people's attention. I'm not hearing any noise about this. I think it's critical because so far, for the last 50 years, we've tried to simplify our regulations. We've only tinkered with regulations, many of them which are over 100 years old, and they have no relevance in today's world. So doing this de novo, I think, is a fantastic move. Of course, we wait to see the direct tax proposal, which will come in the next few days. And from what she said, that also should be a welcome shift because she said they will be simpler, straightforward, easier to understand, easier to implement, and at least half the size of the current act that we have. I also like that we focused on things like nutrition. We focused on things like education, creating more capacity in the technical institutes, creating more capacity in the medical schools. So overall, a fund for a deep tech fund, I think overall as a nation, to help us equip ourselves better in a world which is very nervous. We don't know where it will go. Countries are pulling apart with the new US administration making announcements of likely tariffs and likely new trade deals. We don't quite know where that is. So all the more reason that our focus on building our own capabilities should get top priority. And I think that's what she's done. The only thing which I found missing compared to the normal budgets was she did not announce a single number for the overall infra spend that the government will do. Of course, it's scattered in many different departments. So one will have to look at the details of the budget. And I haven't yet read the fine print. But overall, I would say a very comprehensive budget, and the lowering of tax should do one more thing which industry has been asking for a while now, is allow and encourage consumption in some manner. So with more liquidity in people's hands, you can do either more saving or more investment or more spend. And each of them actually does good. So as consumption goes up with the higher availability of liquidity, the need to build more capacity, therefore the private capex cycle should kick in, and therefore more job creation.
Very interesting you spoke of infrastructure because Mr. Chatterjee here just a short while ago went through the fine print and said that for a change there's no spending on that front. So that's something that everybody is going to read into very carefully. But the overall sentiment, Zaka, here at CII has been it's a positive, feel-good budget and has not left anyone disappointed. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Kritzveen. I want to go across straight to Mr. Ajay Singh, Chairman and Managing Director of SpiceJet. Mr. Singh, top of the budget document for as far as aviation is concerned. So 2-3 things. Revision of the Udan scheme, which was highly beneficial over the last 10 years. There's talk about expanding the Patna airport. There's a new greenfield airport that's being proposed in, I think, Betia, if I'm not wrong. What are your first thoughts, particularly when it comes to the aviation field that the Budget 2025 has?
I think, the Udan scheme has been one of the most successful schemes of the NDA government over the last few years. The country has managed to add more than 80 new destinations that were before this, that were unconnected. And I think it was good to hear the finance minister mention the scheme in her budget speech, and the fact that the proposal is to add another 120 destinations through Udan, get in another 4 crore air passengers through Udan. I think incredible positive. Those are all big positives. In addition to that, she spoke about medical tourism. She spoke about religious tourism. The fact that they will take the 50 top tourism destinations in the country and develop those 50 tourism destinations in collaboration with the private sector and the state governments. I think those are all big positives. I think it's important that the government of India is recognizing the contribution of air connectivity, of tourism, and I think all those are big positives for the tourism and the aviation sector.
Well, Mr. Singh, just looking beyond the tourism and the aviation industry for just a few moments, this is Rahul Shivshankar. Good afternoon. The tax exemptions that have been now handed out by this government, which will benefit quite a few people, somebody has thrown up a number to say around 5 crore people. Will that also help boosting consumption, in your opinion?
For sure, for sure. I think it's a big move. To move from 7 lakhs to 12 lakhs is a big move. And the sheer numbers of people impacted with this, clearly the idea is to put more money in the pockets of people and to boost consumer spending. And that should benefit all sectors, including the aviation and tourism sectors. So big positive. But you know, one thing that was really interesting to me was her announcement that the income tax bill will be introduced next year. And the way this whole thing is going. Firstly, the fact that, you know, this bill was only announced in July of last year, and for them to be able to introduce it so soon is an incredible achievement. And I fully expect that this bill will be far smaller, and she said that it will be half the size of the previous bill. But not only will it be half the size of the previous bill, I expect that the bill will also be much simpler. And that should lead to significantly reduced complexity and litigation. I think one of the things that bedevils this country is the over-regulation. Is one of the things that's a big problem right now is this over-regulation and complexity and litigation that results from the complexity and regulation. So if we can reduce that, all steps that can be taken for that are welcome, and these look like they are big steps. To you know, rethink regulation, all of them in one shot through a committee. I hope that this committee does good work, and we are finally able to address this bugbear of over-regulation that bedevils this country at this time. But there seems to be optimism that all this can happen.
All right, Mr. Singh, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts and perspective on Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman's budget, the 8th consecutive budget that she's presented. Rajat is here in our studios. Rajat, you've been shaking your head. I think the markets are down. Why are we having, you know, some optimism? You heard optimism from CII, optimism from Mr. Singh, but you and the markets don't seem to agree.
Yeah, thanks. And why I'm shaking my head is that retailers finally have given a big thumbs down to Nirmala Sitharaman. I am from the money market. What I know and believe is the markets discounts everything. So they have hugely discounted what Nirmala Sitharaman today has come out on the table. So first point primarily is when they say ki middle class, where they are looking at middle class, where the middle class starts at. If you see just 2 days back, there was a huge debate going on LinkedIn. Somebody was saying the middle class starts at 1 crore or at 10 crore. So now here, when we say the retailer, if you just see the demographics of the retailers that are there, they are given a huge thumb down. Why I am saying this, when I left my home for the studio, we were plus 200 points up. When I got seated here and listened to these discussions over here, it is again mid-cap down by 800 points. Now, when we say that Viksit Bharat, you cannot have a Viksit Bharat by just doling out exemptions which are not even meeting the inflationary rate of increase in expenses, cost, inflation over the years, when around 30%, 35% of the middle class exposure goes to payment of the EMIs. And you are not negating that. Real estate itself has increased, residential properties have increased by around 21% CAGR over the last 3 years. So the property which was a 1 crore is now 2 crore, and they are paying nearly double the EMIs, and that EMIs have not been addressed as a part of the exemption here.
Okay, that's one particular way of looking at it. Let's go straight across to Amitabh Kant. Thank you for joining us in our studios, Mr. Kant, this afternoon. This is Rahul Shivshankar, with me, Zaka Jacob. Very quickly, coming across to you, there are two aspects to this budget. The first, of course, is the immediate impact which is being felt by the middle class. I'd like you to sort of comment on that. Is that enough? Does it go far enough? Will it do what many people are hoping it will do, which is to boost consumption? That's one. And the other aspect is, have we got lost in the headline, and therefore we are not concentrating on the larger picture? Is this a budget, therefore, for growth that will take us beyond 8%?
So Rahul, first and foremost, this budget, the attempt has been to provide a fillip to demand, push consumption in a big way, and give away about 1 lakh of crores of direct taxes, so that there's greater purchasing power in the hands of the middle class. That, to my mind, was important at this particular point of your economy. But if you look at the overall budget, it's been done in a responsible manner because the budget also aims at a macroeconomic stability, the fiscal consolidation, because the RE fiscal deficit was about 4.8% and it aims at about 4.4% for the coming year, which I think is being very, very fiscally responsible. Because you also have the challenge of inflation and therefore you need to do it in a disciplined manner. But the budget also has a very, very strong focus on labor-intensive sectors. This is the first time I've seen so much of emphasis on tourism, on textile, on footwear, on leather. So these are all labor-intensive sector. The other is that the job creation in a big way happens through the startup movement, and to replenish the 10,000 crores for the startup fund of fund will have a multiplier impact, because for every rupee that